Mouthwashing is an angry game. It's angry at people who do bad things. But it's not really a game about why people do bad things. It's a game about how you grapple with the bad things you've already done. Case in point, in the opening scene of Mouthwashing, you pilot a spaceship straight into an asteroid. The immediate question, of course, is why, in the name of God, would you do this? The second is, who exactly are you? And eventually, for what it's worth, you do find out that the you in that scene was Jimmy, the co-pilot, who steered the ship into disaster to cover up what he did with, or more accurately to, Anya, the ship's nurse. What's remarkable, though, isn't the revelation itself, but that when it comes, the why of it all is so inconsequential. Jimmy's motivations are neither explored nor explained. Why did he do such a vile thing to another human being? And why would he rather die than fess up to it? Who cares? He's a piece of shit, and he did a piece of shit thing. It cannot be undone, nor forgiven. The sense of inevitability that permeates every moment of Mouthwashing is as claustrophobic as the corridors of the Tulpa, the long-haul freighter on which 5 crew members are halfway through their dismal 382-day shift. It's clear that shit is going to go down whether you want it to or not from the moment the first scene opens with 0 days before the crash. And then this happens. This, by the way, is nowhere near the most awful thing you'll find yourself doing in this relatively short game. What's worse is that every dreadful event feels like it's already happened. You're just there to feel terrible as you watch it all play out. Mouthwashing wants you to feel helpless. It also wants you to... There's no escaping the idea of responsibility in this game. It will find you again and again and again, chasing you down every time you try and look away from what you've done. This tension between inevitability and responsibility, between what we're driven to do and the right thing to do, is at the core of this game, and eventually it will consume all the crew members of the Tulpa. Everything goes downhill post-crash, of course, that much anyone could see coming. There's the depletion of food and medicine, the deterioration of the ship, the slow mental and social breakdown of the crew as they succumb to fear, starvation, mistrust, and the realization that there's no rescue coming. This part of the story is nothing you haven't already seen in 100 claustrophobic thrillers. Neither is the premise of person who did something bad is tortured and consumed by their own guilt original exactly. What makes Mouthwashing different is the myriad ways it uses the medium to make it all hurt. Mouthwashing is an angry game. It's angry at you. It wants to make you suffer. And it does. Watching hideous things being done is one thing, but guiding a mouse to do the hideous things with your own hands is another. No matter how many times you remind yourself that these are just tortured mindscapes and not literal reality, probably. The agonizing dissociation is deliberate, putting us in the supremely uncomfortable shoes of the increasingly unstable Jimmy, whose mind is fracturing under the guilt of what he's done and the crushing responsibility of his new position as acting captain, the former captain, Curly, having been... As the weight of Jimmy's cowardice and moral failings painstakingly dismantles his psyche, we are thrust into bewildering scenes, Giant eyeballs follow our every move, axes pursue us through corridors. An ultrasound of a giant throbbing womb reveals what looks like a horse? Every vision a nightmarish reminder of the ways his fellow crew members are suffering or dead because of him. We, as Jimmy, stumble through these visions, grasping for a way out, pleading for escape, and instead the game gives us only guilt, only judgment, only harrowing, relentless shame. I hope this hurts. I hope this hurts. Dear fucking Lord, it does! Through it all, the accusing, lidless eyes of the captain. He knows what you did, and it cannot be undone, nor forgiven. At times, the game itself feels like a malevolent presence lashing out at you, the player. Scene transitions are jarring. A few seconds of suddenly frozen screen and stuttering audio that will leave you wondering for a moment whether the game has crashed, then a bleed into the next story beat. The timeline jumps disorientingly back and forth between pre-crash, post-crash, and hours before an event ominously called Judgment. The low-poly visuals are unsettling. The soundtrack is queasy. It's difficult to look at, hard to follow, torturous to play, and all of it drives toward its thematic purpose with the iron resolve of an axe murderer blasted on mouthwash. Take those time jumps. Yes, they disorient, but they also create an incredible sense of narrative tension. We leap forward, and the quest indicator changes to find the gun. That can't be good. What gun, and why are we finding it? Symbolism abounds, images repeat, words foreshadow. Chekhov's gun does go off in every way possible. Every setup paid off. Every plot detail looped back on itself, every word and image chosen for multiple meanings and maximum resonance. At least 2 playthroughs are essential, and you'll probably pick up more details on a 3rd or 4th. On replay, the game is an entirely different experience, everything having been recontextualized and clarified by your understanding of what's gone down. The second time around, the game is even more nauseating, for entirely different reasons. The second time around, I felt all of Jimmy's lies catching in his throat. Felt them in my own throat, like the painkillers Curly agonizingly chokes down every day. When Jimmy complains post-crash about having to do everything to keep things together around here, we know he is the reason for all of this. When he calls himself the only responsible one on the ship, the irony stings. When he accuses Curly of just wanting to use everyone and leave them behind, we see it as the thinly disguised confession that it is. At the climax of the game, Jimmy falls to his knees in a vast galactic purgatory as Curly burns like a vengeful effigy, and what feels like it should be a revelatory moment in the story is undercut by more lies. It was an accident. A mistake, he says. But no, it wasn't. I was there. The ship's computer told me to steer left, and I grabbed the controls and I steered right. I knew exactly what I was doing. It was no accident, no mistake. I see through Jimmy because I am him. This may be one of Mouthwashing's greatest narrative wins. Many games have you play what turns out to be a bad guy, but rarely does a game turn that perspective back on the protagonist so ferociously, in equal measure perfectly capturing and brutally condemning your efforts to make it all about you. Your perspective may be Jimmy's, but the game's empathy is for his victims. Terrified Anya, sweet Daisuke, grumpy Swansea, barely sentient Curly. If its creative vision was anything less than razor sharp, I might call Mouthwashing pointless, gratuitous, nihilistic. but it is elevated precisely because of its clinically effective use of nausea and ghastliness, its gruesome ingredients woven into sequences that are occasionally, surprisingly, beautiful. When this game goes, it frickin' goes! Even when it's forcing you to guide a chunk of a man's own leg meat through his intestinal tract by turning wheels melded with his body and connected to whirling cosmic images on television screens surrounding him. Who the bloody hell came up with this? It's like nothing I've ever seen. Franny, writing for Gamesline, said it best. I'm so disgusted and uncomfortable and impressed. The creative fingerprint of this development team is so singular. I had no regrets about having taken a journey through their tormented vision of a guilt-driven nightmare, even when it caused me real psychic pain to play, even when the ending ultimately disappointed. To be clear, disappointingly was the only way this story could have ended. What you've done cannot be undone, nor forgiven. It can only be taken responsibility for. Or can it? I can't help but wonder if Jimmy's final action is an act of responsibility or yet another avoidance of it. Something in me tells me that the game might want us to look at that message, take responsibility, and ask if it's all that simple. Who is this message really for? Who is it coming from? I mean, Jimmy already doomed everyone on the ship to death. Isn't it too late for him to take responsibility in a way that would mean anything? Maybe that message is for us, those of us a little too like Jimmy, too willing to hurt others and then run from accountability, too ready to paint ourselves as heroes despite all evidence to the contrary, to nurture a self-image of the good guy that's just as much an illusion as the sunset on the wall. Or perhaps those of us a little too like Curly, the captain, who we also sometimes play as. Curly, so desperate to defend a buddy and smooth things over that when Anya tries to tell him what happened, when the warning signals could not be more clear that his good old friend from way back is a dangerous abuser that should be thrown in a cryopod or out the airlock, responsible Captain Curly chooses to keep his eyes closed and his mouth shut, and now he can't do either of those things anymore. There is another angle we haven't considered. In 3 different scenes, Jimmy is haunted and hunted by, of all things, a company mascot. Like everything else in this game, the freight company Pony Express and their mascot, Polly the horse, are kinda off. The fact that Tulpa is a company ship on a for-profit freight mission does not escape scrutiny. Pony Express is irresponsible. Its own employees admit it has alarmingly low hiring standards. Pony Express is stingy. I mean, come on, 1 birthday celebration allowed for per year-long trip? Pony Express is cruel. Exploring the lounge, you'll find posters offering friendly corporate messages about all the ways you'll be blamed and punished if anything happens to the cargo. Punctual delivery is our pride and promise, no matter where you are. Late deliveries will be docked from personal credits. In other words, you'd better take personal responsibility for any accidents, injuries, or illnesses, because the company will not. These people were frightened of the company they worked for long before they were frightened of each other. Take the scene in which Anya tells Curly she's hidden the onboard gun to feel safer from Jimmy. Curly's response is, "None of this has to be on our performance log." In a flashback scene before the crash, the crew receives the only piece of communication they'll get from Pony Express in the entire game. It's a termination notice. The news sends everyone into a tailspin. By all accounts, the captain's the only one with prospects beyond this job. Everyone else is fucked. Incompetent Daisuke, pregnant Anya, aging Swansea, resentful Jimmy. They plunge into despair, then they turn on each other and themselves, and the rest is history. Let's be clear, these 5 people are culpable for their own actions, for being immature, cowardly, misanthropic. Curly is responsible for reacting to Anya's desperation to keep herself safe because no one else was, with, "Oh no, my performance record." But surely Pony Express holds some responsibility too, for hiring inexperienced, desperate people and then blasting them out into space for a year, for suddenly terminating them in the middle of that long, grueling mission, for putting a lock on the door of the medical bay but not the sleeping quarters. Are the crew the only ones here who need to take responsibility? They all have their flaws, some more than others, but as we are repeatedly told, we are not our worst moments. Mouthwashing is an angry game. It's angry at capitalism, at the unbearable pressures that make us desperate and scared and trapped, that make us into monsters. For no more than a cargo hold full of mouthwash. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please jump in the comments and join the conversation, and consider supporting me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much to all my patrons who support me and make this channel possible. I'll see you all next time.